The moment those two compliance auditors showed up at Lucas's desk, the air in the open plan office thickened, like fog rolling in off the San Francisco Bay. It was right after his usual midday walk. Lucas always stepped out at noon sharp, rain or shine, to clear his head along the Embarcadero, watching the ferries cut through the choppy water. He returned at 12:45. Every time, without fail. But that day, as he rounded the corner back to his cubicle in the bustling tech firm Data Shield, he saw them, Sarah and Mike, gloved up, methodically sifting through his meticulously organized drawers. Lucas didn't flinch. He just set his thermos down quietly and stood there, arms loosely at his sides, watching with the kind of calm that unnerves people who thrive on chaos. From my spot 2 desks over, I could see it all unfolding. I'd been at Data Shield for 3 years, long enough to know the undercurrents. Lucas Hale was the guy who never missed a detail. He built the anomaly detection algorithms for our biggest client, a national bank chain, spotting fraud patterns before they even formed. Quiet. Precise. With a habit of logging everything, timestamps on emails, version histories on every code commit, even notes on casual hallway chats if they touched on sensitive data. He wasn't paranoid, he was prepared. And that preparation rubbed some people the wrong way. Especially Brett, the ambitious hotshot across the aisle who always laughed a little too loud and networked like his life depended on it. Brett was perched at his station, feigning deep focus on his dual monitors. But his eyes darted over like a kid peeking at a forbidden cookie jar. You didn't need a subpoena to know who'd tipped off compliance. The tension had been simmering for weeks. Brett had been gunning for Lucas's spot on the high-profile project, the one involving real-time threat modeling. Management kept pulling Lucas in for sanity checks, even when Brett was leading the demo. It burned Brett up inside. You could see it in the way his smiles stretched too thin. His jokes landed with an edge. Last Thursday, he'd muttered something about that guy's got skeletons in his code, loud enough for the break room to hear. No one laughed. But the seed was planted. Sarah glanced up as Lucas approached. Routine audit. Mr. Hale. Quarterly initiative. Her voice was clipped. Professional. But her eyes avoided his. Mike nodded. Flipping through a stack of printed logs Lucas had bound with color-coded tabs. The office hummed with that artificial busyness, keyboards clacking, phones vibrating, but everyone was tuned in. I sipped my stale coffee, pretending to debug a script, but my peripheral vision was locked on the scene. Lucas just nodded. Take your time, he said softly, his voice steady like a heartbeat monitor. He didn't argue, didn't demand explanations. He stepped aside, letting them dig. They started with the obvious, his laptop sleeve, the locked drawer with client specs. Everything was pristine. No sticky notes with passwords. No unredacted printouts lying around. Lucas's setup was a compliance officer's dream. Folders labeled by date and project. Backups encrypted and time-stamped. But Brett couldn't resist. He leaned back in his chair, spinning a stress ball, and quipped, "Hope everything's above board over there. Wouldn't want any data ghosts haunting the system." His grin was all teeth, the kind that screams insecurity. Lucas didn't bite. He just watched as Mike pulled out a slim, unlabeled binder from the bottom drawer, tucked under a pile of outdated policy memos. Sarah's brow furrowed as she opened it. I couldn't see the contents from my angle, but the way Mike leaned in, whispering something about credential chains, told me it wasn't what they expected. The room's energy shifted subtly. A few heads turned. Whispers rippled like water disturbed by a stone. Brett's spin slowed. Sarah cleared her throat. Mr. Hale, could you join us in the conference room for a clarification? Lucas nodded again, calm as ever. Of course. As they walked away, binder in hand, Brett shot me a look. his smugness cracking just a hair. He didn't know it yet, but that binder wasn't Lucas's downfall. It was the key to someone else's. By the time they emerged from the conference room an hour later, the whispers had grown. Sarah and Mike didn't return to Lucas's desk. Instead, they huddled in a corner office with the director. Doors closed. Lucas sat back down, opened his terminal, and resumed work like nothing had happened. But I saw the subtle tension in his shoulders. The way his fingers paused over the keys for a split second longer than usual. Brett tried to play it cool, blasting a playlist through his headphones, but his foot tapped erratically. The audit wasn't random, that much was clear. And as the afternoon dragged on, with no resolution, the office felt like a pressure cooker on low simmer. That evening, as I packed up, I caught Lucas staring at his screen, a faint line creasing his forehead. He wasn't the type to vent, but in that moment, I wondered what it cost him to stay so composed. To know the knives were out, sharpened by envy, and still hold steady. Little did we know, Lucas had been sharpening his own tools for months, waiting for the right moment to reveal them. The next morning dawned gray over the Bay Area, mirroring the mood at Data Shield. Lucas arrived at 8 a.m. Sharp, as always, hanging his jacket neatly and powering up his workstation. But something was off. His access to the core anomaly dashboard flashed, credentials suspended. He didn't panic. He just opened a notepad, jotted down the timestamp, and moved on to local files. Brett, early for once, smirked from his desk. Tech gremlins. Huh? Happens to the best of us. His voice carried that false sympathy, laced with glee. Lucas ignored him, focusing on rebuilding a template from scratch. Words spread fast in the Slack channels, subtle pings about system alignments and pending reviews. By 10 a.m., Lucas's email access to client threads was restricted to corporate speak for isolation. People started avoiding his row, conversations dipping to whispers when he passed the coffee machine. I watched it happen. That slow erosion of trust planted by rumor. Brett fueled it, casually dropping lines like, "Heard they found some shady logs. Who prints that stuff anyway?" in the break room. A few nodded, not because they believed it, but because doubt is easier than defense. Lucas's mug, a plain white one with a faded binary code joke, ended up on the lost and found shelf by noon. Petty. Unspoken sabotage. He retrieved it without a word, rinsed it, and brewed his herbal tea. But I saw the flicker in his eyes. That quiet hurt of betrayal by the everyday. HR stayed silent. No formal notice. Just digital barriers rising like invisible walls. Brett strutted a bit more, taking over a segment of Lucas's project in a team email labeled for continuity. It stung, watching envy claim territory it hadn't earned. Afternoon brought more locks, project management tools, even the internal wiki. Lucas documented each one, his pen moving methodically across the page. I passed his desk around 3 p.m. and saw him organizing an external drive, folders nested with backups, redacted summaries, everything locked down. He wasn't crumbling, he was fortifying. But in the quiet moments, when the office emptied for coffee runs, I caught him staring out the window toward the bridge, doubt clouding his usually clear gaze. Not in his work, but in the people around him, the ones who'd let the loudest voice drown out the truth. Monday hit like a reset button, but the tension lingered. Lucas sat down, reached into a concealed compartment under his desk, a spot I'd seen him fiddle with once before, and pulled out a sealed envelope. Thick, unmarked, secured with a single black clip. He stood, walked past the humming printers and averted eyes, and placed it on Sarah's desk. She looked up, startled. "You'll need this," he said evenly. "Full audit trail. with summaries for legal. No drama. Just delivery. Sarah peeled it open, her expression shifting from professional detachment to wide-eyed realization. Pages of timestamps, access logs, flagged anomalies, all color-coded, indexed. Mike joined her, scanning the documents. Their whispers grew urgent. This traces back. Look at the overrides. Brett paced nearby, his earlier confidence fraying. He tried to interject. Anything I can clarify? I've touched those models too. Sarah waved him off. Not necessary. The envelope wasn't defense. It was revelation. Lucas returned to the break room, stirring his tea as if handing over dynamite was routine. But the office buzzed differently now, eyes on Brett. Not Lucas. Sarah blocked her calendar. Legal looped in. By lunch, forensics was pulling server logs, cross-referencing dates that predated any accusation. The direction flipped, not probing Lucas, but unraveling someone else's web. Brett cornered me by the vending machine later. Lucas is intense. Right? Hoarding logs like that, kinda suspicious. His voice cracked slightly, sweat beading on his forehead. I shrugged. Save it for the auditors. He slunk away, his calendar soon flashing a compliance debrief. He emerged pale, silent, the bravado stripped away. Meanwhile, a junior analyst approached Lucas quietly. Your log structure? It's genius. Made tracing so easy. Lucas nodded. That's the idea. The shift was palpable, chairs turning away from Brett, conversations halting in his presence. Lucas packed up that evening, pausing to add one more entry to his notepad. The storm was building, and he was the eye, calm amid the gathering winds. Tuesday dragged with unspoken dread. No jokes from Brett. No Slack banter. Legal's inquiries hummed in the background, calendar invites marked review, soft voices behind closed doors. Forensics dug deeper, uncovering mismatches in data exports, unauthorized pulls from restricted layers, timestamps doctored, all tied to Brett's credentials. Not sloppy hacks, but calculated tweaks to mask personal gains, perhaps selling insights, or just ego-driven sabotage. The email dropped mid-morning, containment protocol active, code for crisis averted, but at a cost. A client breach clause loomed, millions at stake. Sarah and Mike moved with purpose. Envelopes clutched tight. The director, who'd once dismissed Lucas as overly procedural, now steered clear of his hallway. Irony hung heavy. Lucas's paranoia had mirrored logs that exposed the flaws in the system itself. People whispered awe at Lucas's archives during a side meeting. This template? Gold standard. One said, projecting a redacted entry. Lucas stood back, sipping coffee, a quiet weight lifting from his posture. No gloating, just quiet vindication. Brett's desk grew radioactive, untouched keyboard, stalled mouse. He'd vanished into meetings, emerging hollow-eyed. By Thursday, the leak solidified, a series of exports containing sensitive attributes. Moved without approval. Brett's login stamped everywhere. The board prepped damage control. A client call went straight to execs. Lucas's logs were quoted verbatim in reports. His mirrored backups the lifeline. Nods from legal as they passed his desk. Gratitude in silence. The panic crested without fanfare. Security and HR appeared at Brett's cube on Wednesday. 8:42 a.m. He stood, wordless, and followed them out. By noon, his space was erased, laptop gone, badge deactivated, desk wiped clean. The office exhaled, a corner suddenly still. Lucas glanced once as the box rolled by, releasing a controlled breath. His calendar pinged. HR discussion. Top level. In the glass room, words filtered through. Your diligence saved us. Opportunity and oversight lead. Lucas emerged rooted, acknowledged. Eyes shifted, respect replacing doubt. He resumed work. Escalated access in hand, building without fanfare. 2 weeks post-erasure. Lucas's name surfaced in a memo, co-leading compliance rebuild. Not flashy, but foundational audit trails with checks, encrypted mirrors, his templates woven in. Sarah handed him a draft. Your input's key. He offered his drive. Start here. He declined perks, a raise push. Private office. Just the work, he said. Training sessions featured his logs as exemplars. Clean enough? Juniors asked. He reviewed, guiding quietly. The man once mocked was now essential. The town hall brought it public. The COO paused, disaster averted by unseen preparation. Eyes turned to Lucas. Applause rippling. A post-it appeared. Thanks for the clean slate. He tucked it away, opening a new file. Q4 safeguards. In the quiet aftermath, Lucas's presence anchored the floor. Systems strengthened. Breaches improbable. He built not for credit, but integrity, outlasting noise. Envy. Passing his desk, he murmured. With the right map, no one can bury you. The office hummed on, but now with a deeper respect for the quiet architects who hold it all together. What does it say about us? When preparation is mistaken for paranoia, and truth emerges only after the storm?